I still remember the way the fluorescent lights in the emergency room hummed, a sound that seemed to vibrate inside my very skull while my 6-year-old grandson, Toby, lay on a gurney struggling for every single breath. The doctors were frantic. His little face was turning a terrifying shade of blue, and in the corner of that cold, sterile room, my daughter-in-law was crying. But it wasn't a cry of grief. It was the most calculated, theatrical performance I had ever seen in my life, and when our eyes met for just a split second, I saw it. A flicker of pure, dark satisfaction. That was the moment I knew. I didn't care about family loyalty, I didn't care about my son's heart breaking, and I didn't care about the consequences. I knew I had to stop her before she actually finished what she started. Was I wrong for what I did next, for treating my own son's wife like a common criminal and potentially destroying my family's reputation forever? Tell me, if you saw a monster hiding behind a mother's smile, would you have stayed silent to keep the peace, or would you have burned the whole world down to save a child? I need you to hear the whole story because people still look at me like I'm the villain. But I know the truth of what happened that night and the weeks leading up to it. It all started about 8 years ago when my son, Jason, brought home Monica. Jason has always been a bit of a dreamer, a kind-hearted man who sees the best in everyone, sometimes to a fault. When he introduced us to Monica, she seemed perfect, almost too perfect. She was beautiful, soft-spoken, and incredibly attentive to Jason. But there was always something in her eyes, a sort of coldness that didn't match the warmth of her words. My husband, who passed away shortly after they got married, used to tell me I was just being a protective mother, that I was looking for flaws because no one was good enough for my boy. I tried to believe him. I really did. I welcomed her into our home. I helped plan their wedding. And when Toby was born 2 years later, I thought that maybe a child would soften whatever sharp edges I sensed beneath her surface. But instead of softening, Monica changed in a way that I can only describe as predatory. She became obsessed with Toby, but not in the way a loving mother is. She was obsessed with his fragility. From the time he was a toddler, she was constantly at the pediatrician's office for things that didn't exist. She'd claim he had high fevers when his forehead was cool to the touch, or she'd say he was having seizures in the middle of the night that no one else ever witnessed. Jason, bless his heart, worked long hours as a civil engineer to provide for them, so he wasn't home to see the reality. He only saw the worried mother and the sick child. He trusted her implicitly. I started noticing things during my weekend visits. I'd see Monica accidentally leave small items Toby could choke on right near his play area, and when I'd point it out, she'd gasp and call herself a scatterbrain, while giving me a look that made my blood run cold. She started telling the family that Toby had a severe, life-threatening peanut allergy. Now, we had Toby tested when he was a baby because his father had mild allergies, and the results had come back negative. But Monica insisted. She made it her entire personality. She'd make scenes at restaurants, scream at waitstaff, and post long, dramatic updates on Facebook about how she was fighting for her son's life, every day in a world full of peanut-laden toxins. It garnered her thousands of likes and comments of support. People saw her as a saintly, tired mother. I saw a woman who was addicted to the attention that Toby's supposed illness brought her. As Toby grew older, he started becoming a happy, healthy little boy, and that seemed to frustrate Monica. The healthier he looked, the more desperate her stories became. She started homeschooling him, which really just meant isolating him from anyone who could verify his health. I'd try to take him to the park, and she'd find a reason to stop me, saying he was too weak, or having a flare-up. Jason was starting to get worried, not about Monica, but about Toby's condition. He was being brainwashed into thinking his son was a walking medical miracle just for staying alive. The tension between Monica and me became a wall of ice. She knew I didn't buy her act. She started telling Jason that I was judging her parenting, and that my presence made her anxious, which led to me being barred from their house for months at a time. I had to beg to see my grandson. When I finally did see him, he looked pale and lethargic. He told me, "Grandma, Mommy gives me the sleepy juice so I can rest." My heart stopped. When I asked Monica what he meant, she snapped that it was just a natural herbal supplement to help with his anxiety. I knew then that she was drugging him to keep him looking sick. I tried to tell Jason, but he blew up at me. He said I was accusing his wife of child abuse, and that if I didn't stop, I'd never see Toby again. I had to play the long game. I apologized, I swallowed my pride, and I pretended to be the supportive grandmother she wanted me to be. I spent months observing, taking notes, and waiting for the moment she'd slip up. And then came the family reunion at my lake house. This was the first time we'd all be together for an extended period. I had cleared the house of every trace of nuts, just to give her no reason to complain. But on the second day, I saw her in the kitchen, and she didn't know I was standing in the hallway. She was opening a small packet of peanut butter she had brought in her own bag. She wasn't eating it. She was carefully rubbing it onto the inside of Toby's favorite water bottle. My breath hitched in my throat. I realized she wasn't just faking an allergy anymore. She was going to create a reaction to prove everyone wrong, to gain back the sympathy she felt she was losing as Toby got older. I stepped back into the shadows, my mind racing. If I confronted her then, she'd just hide the bottle and call me a liar. I needed to catch her in the act, or I needed to protect Toby without her knowing I was onto her. I managed to swap the bottle for an identical one before Toby drank from it, but the look of disappointment on Monica's face when Toby didn't collapse was bone-chilling. She didn't look relieved that her son was okay. She looked angry that her plan had failed. So that's the situation I was in, trapped in a house with a woman who was willing to induce an anaphylactic shock in her own child just for a Facebook update and a few "poor you" comments from her friends. I was terrified. I was alone in my suspicion, and I knew that the next time she wouldn't be so sloppy. Before I tell you what happened on the final night and how I managed to catch her red-handed, I want you to pause and comment below. What would you have done? Would you have grabbed the child and ran, or would you have waited for proof like I did? Do you think I was being too cautious with a child's life on the line? I really want to hear your perspective because that night still haunts my dreams. The final night of the reunion, the air was thick with humidity and the sound of cicadas. We were all sitting on the deck, and Monica offered to put Toby to bed. She seemed unusually cheerful. I followed her up a few minutes later under the guise of saying a final good night. I stood outside the bedroom door, and I heard her whispering to him, "Drink this, Toby. It's your special medicine. It'll make all the mean people understand how sick you are." I pushed the door open just as she was holding a syringe to his mouth. Not a needle, but an oral syringe filled with a thick, white liquid. I didn't think. I lunged. I knocked the syringe out of her hand, and it sprayed across the carpet. Monica let out a screech like a wounded animal. "What are you doing? You're going to hurt him," she yelled. Jason came running in, and Monica immediately collapsed into his arms, sobbing that I had attacked her while she was trying to give Toby his reflux medicine. Jason looked at me with such disappointment and anger. "Mom, you need to leave, now. You've finally lost it." But I didn't leave. I grabbed Toby, who was crying and confused, and I pointed at the liquid on the floor. I told Jason, if that's reflux medicine, let the dog lick it up, or better yet, let Monica take a dose. Monica's face went from sobbing to stone, cold in a second. She tried to step on the carpet to rub the liquid in, but I pushed her back. I grabbed a clean washcloth and soaked up as much of the liquid as I could. Then I put it in a Ziploc bag I had in my pocket. I told them I was calling the police and the hospital. Jason tried to stop me, but I looked him in the eye and said, "If I'm wrong, I'll go to jail and you'll never see me again. But if I'm right, your son is about to die." We ended up in that emergency room I mentioned earlier. Toby had started wheezing on the way there, not from the liquid, because he hadn't swallowed it, but from the sheer stress and whatever else she had been giving him earlier in the day. While the doctors were stabilizing him, I handed the Ziploc bag to a nurse and demanded it be tested. I told her exactly what I suspected. The wait was the longest 3 hours of my life. Monica stayed in character the whole time, clinging to Jason, whispering about how unstable I was. But then the lead doctor came out, and he wasn't looking at me. He was looking at Monica with a look of pure loathing. He had the results. The liquid wasn't reflux medicine. It was a concentrated solution of a powerful beta blocker, something that would have slowed Toby's heart rate to a near stop, making it look like he had a natural cardiac event related to his complex medical issues. It was cold-blooded attempted murder. The police were already in the hallway. They had been tipped off by the hospital staff the moment the lab results started coming back. I watched as they put the handcuffs on Monica right there in the waiting room. She didn't cry then. She just looked at me and spat on the floor. Jason collapsed. He literally fell to his knees as the reality of who he had married and what she had almost done to his son hit him like a freight train. The aftermath was a nightmare of its own. Monica was charged with multiple counts of child endangerment, aggravated assault, and attempted murder. During the investigation, they found journals she had kept, digital files hidden behind encrypted folders, where she detailed her experiments with Toby's health. She had been documenting his reactions to different medications for years, enjoying the power she felt over his life and the attention she received as a medical mom. It was a textbook case of Munchausen by proxy, but with a much more violent final goal. Jason went through a period of intense guilt and depression. He couldn't believe he had been so blind. We spent a year in intensive family therapy. Toby, thank God, is a resilient little boy. With the sleepy juice and the medications out of his system, he blossomed. He's now a top student, a star soccer player, and most importantly, he's healthy. He doesn't have a single allergy. The peanut allergy was a total fabrication. My relationship with Jason has healed, but there's always a shadow there, the knowledge of what we almost lost. Monica is currently serving a 20-year sentence. My mother-in-law and her side of the family still send me hateful messages, claiming I set her up because I never liked her. They choose to believe the lie because the truth is too heavy to carry. But I look at Toby every day, running in the sun, breathing clearly, and I know I did the right thing. I saved my grandson's life, even if it meant breaking my son's heart for a little while. The moral of this story is to never, ever ignore your gut feeling, especially when it comes to the safety of a child. People can wear very convincing masks, but the truth always leaves a trail. Protecting the innocent is more important than protecting a perfect family image. If you saw the red flags I saw, I hope you have the courage to speak up before the accident finally happens. It's better to be the villain in a lie than a mourner at a funeral. Like this video, if you believe a grandmother's intuition is a powerful thing, and if you're glad Toby is safe. Subscribe for more stories about uncovering the truth and fighting for what's right, even when it's hard. And please, share your final thoughts on Monica and Jason in the comments section. Did Jason deserve more blame for being blind, or was he just another victim of her manipulation? I'll be reading everything you have to say. I'll see you all in the next story.